I never meant to find that letter. If I hadn't dropped my phone behind Mom's antique desk while cleaning the study, I might have gone on believing their lies for years. But there it was, peeking out from a stack of papers as I reached for my phone, a bank notice about their mortgage refinancing. My name is Harper, and up until that moment, I thought I understood my place in our family. I was the artistic one, the dreamer, the disappointment. My brother Ryan was the golden child, the entrepreneur, the one who could do no wrong. But this letter? This changed everything. $200,000? I whispered, my hands shaking as I read the document. The refinancing date matched perfectly with when Ryan had opened his second store location. All those times my parents had told me they couldn't help with my art school tuition because times were tight, they'd been funneling money into my brother's business. The front door clicked open and I heard my mother's voice floating down the hallway. "Harper, are you still cleaning in there?" I quickly shoved the letter back where I'd found it, my heart pounding. "Yeah, Mom. Almost done." She appeared in the doorway, perfectly put together as always, her critical gaze sweeping the room. "Don't forget to dust the bookshelves. You know how your father gets about his books." "Sure thing," I managed, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hey, have you heard from Ryan lately? How's the new store doing?" Something flickered across her face. Worry, maybe? Before she smiled. "Oh, you know your brother. He's always so busy these days, barely has time to call. But I'm sure everything's fine." Everything was not fine. I'd seen Ryan's store last week, and it had been empty except for 2 elderly customers browsing the clearance section. But Mom would never admit that her precious son might be struggling. That evening, I called my grandmother Evelyn. She'd always been the only one who really saw me, who believed in my art. "Grandma, you won't believe what I found," I started, then spilled everything about the letter. "Oh, sweetheart," she sighed. "I was wondering when you'd figure it out. Your parents. They've always had different standards for you and Ryan." "Different standards?" I laughed bitterly. "They've mortgaged their future for him while telling me I need to be more practical about mine. They've been lying to me for months." "Years," Grandma Evelyn corrected gently. "They've been treating you differently for years. The question is, what are you going to do about it now?" I glanced at my sketchbook, filled with designs for my final portfolio. My professors had been praising my work, hinting at connections they could make for me after graduation. But my parents had been pushing harder lately for me to be realistic and help out at Ryan's store. "I don't know," I admitted. "But I'm tired of being the family afterthought." "Then maybe it's time to show them exactly what they've been overlooking," Grandma said, her voice taking on that tone she used to get when she was still teaching, the one that meant she had a plan. My phone buzzed with a text from Ryan. "Hey sis, need a favor. Can you cover some shifts at the store next week? Just temporary, promise." I stared at the message, feeling something shift inside me. All those years of being the good daughter, of accepting less, of staying quiet, they ended today. "Actually, Grandma," I said, a new resolve strengthening my voice, "I think I know exactly what I need to do." As I hung up the phone, another text from Ryan came through. "Mom and Dad said you're not too busy with school stuff. Please? I really need the help." I put my phone down without responding. They had no idea what was coming. But they were about to learn that their artistic daughter had inherited more than just Grandma's creativity. I'd inherited her spine too. Sunday family dinners had always been a performance, but tonight felt different. Maybe it was because I knew about the mortgage, or maybe it was the way Ryan kept checking his phone under the table, his face getting paler with each glance. "Harper, did you hear me?" Mom's voice cut through my thoughts. "I asked how your classes are going." I pushed my peas around the plate, buying time. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about that. Professor Martinez thinks my portfolio could get me an internship at Collins Design Group this summer." The silence that followed was deafening. Dad's fork stopped halfway to his mouth, and Mom's smile became fixed, the kind she wore when dealing with difficult customers at her boutique. Honey, she started, using that patronizing tone I'd grown to hate, we've talked about this. Your little drawings are a wonderful hobby, but they're not little drawings, I interrupted, my voice stronger than I expected. They're professional designs, and Collins is one of the top firms in the country. Ryan snorted. Come on, sis. You really think you can make it in that world? It's cutthroat out there. Unlike your business, which is doing so well. The words slipped out before I could stop them. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Ryan's face flushed red, and Dad put down his fork with a sharp clink. That was uncalled for, Dad said. Your brother is building something real, something sustainable. He's taking risks, showing initiative. And what am I doing? I challenged, thinking of the mortgage document hidden in the study. Wasting my time. Throwing away my potential. Mom reached across the table, trying to pat my hand. I pulled away. We just want what's best for you, sweetheart. In fact, your father and I were thinking, maybe you could take a break from school, help Ryan out at the store for a while. Get some real-world experience. Pieces clicked into place, Ryan's desperate text messages, my parents' sudden interest in my education. They weren't just dismissing my dreams, they were trying to derail them completely. I had lunch with Grandma Evelyn yesterday, I said carefully, watching their reactions. She told me an interesting story about when she wanted to go to college. Mom's face tightened. Harper, that was a different time. Was it? 'Cause it sounds pretty familiar. Family pressuring her to take the practical route, ignoring what she wanted, what she was good at. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. But here's the difference, I'm not giving in like she did. Sit down, Dad ordered. We're not done discussing this. Actually, we are. I grabbed my bag from the counter. And Ryan? Next time you need someone to cover your shifts, try hiring actual employees instead of manipulating your sister. Ryan's phone buzzed again, and this time I caught a glimpse of the screen, a gambling app notification. Interesting. Harper Quinn, if you walk out that door, Mom started. You'll what? Cut me off? Good luck with that. I know about the mortgage, by the way. A real sustainable business plan you've got there. The shocked silence that followed me out was almost worth years of being the family disappointment. Almost. In my car, I pulled out my phone and dialed Grandma Evelyn. How'd it go? She asked, not bothering with hello. About as well as your college announcement in '65, I said, managing a weak laugh. But I did notice something interesting. Ryan's got a gambling app on his phone. Ah. Grandma's voice took on that thoughtful tone I knew so well. That would explain a few things. Come over tomorrow after your classes. I think it's time I showed you some old family documents I've been keeping safe. As I drove away from my parents' house, I caught a glimpse of Ryan watching from the window, his phone still clutched in his hand. For the first time, I wondered if maybe he wasn't the golden child after all, maybe he was just better at hiding his chains. Grandma Evelyn's house always smelled like cinnamon and old books. Today, though, the familiar comfort was overshadowed by what lay spread across her dining room table: bank statements, legal documents, and what looked like private investigator reports all about Ryan. Your brother's been busy, Grandma said, sliding a paper toward me. These are from his business accounts. Notice anything interesting? I scanned the numbers, my design training making patterns jump out immediately. These withdrawals. They're regular, but they don't match any normal business expenses. Keep going. And they're always rounded numbers, always late at night. My stomach dropped as I connected the dots. Casino withdrawals? Grandma nodded, her expression grim. Your grandfather didn't die of a heart attack because of business stress, Harper. He died trying to cover your father's gambling debts. History has a way of repeating itself in this family. The room spun slightly. Dad was a gambler? Was. Is. These things don't just go away. She pulled out another document. Your mother's been enabling it for years, just like she's enabling Ryan now. But this time, they're not just risking their own future, they're risking yours. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. We need to talk about your education. Coming to campus tomorrow. They're going to try to force me to drop out, aren't they? I asked, though I already knew the answer. They'll say it's temporary, Grandma confirmed. Just until Ryan's business stabilizes. But we both know better. Another buzz. This time from Ryan. Hey sis, about Sunday. Can we meet? There's something you should know. I showed Grandma the text. She reached into a drawer and pulled out an envelope. Before you meet him, you should see this. I hired someone to track Ryan's movements last month. The photos aren't pretty. The envelope contained pictures of Ryan leaving various casinos, looking progressively more desperate. The final photo showed him talking to a man who definitely wasn't a business investor. That's a loan shark, Grandma said quietly. Your brother's in deeper than even your parents know. My phone rang, Mom again. I let it go to voicemail. I can't let them derail my future to save Ryan's, I said, my voice shaking. But I also can't just watch him destroy himself. No, Grandma agreed. But maybe it's time for some creative problem solving. You're not the only one who inherited artistic talent in this family. She smiled, but it wasn't her usual warm expression. This was sharper, more calculated. What do you mean? Your grandfather left something else behind, evidence of your father's gambling, documentation that could have saved us all a lot of grief if I'd used it sooner. I was too afraid then, trying to keep the peace. But you're stronger than I was. She pulled out one final folder. This is everything, account numbers, dates, patterns. Enough to prove that Ryan's business was never meant to succeed. It was just a front for laundering gambling money. Your parents knew, Harper. They've always known. My phone buzzed again. Ryan, please, sis. I really need your help. Looking at his message, I remembered all the times he'd covered for me when we were kids before the family dynamics twisted everything. Before he became their golden child and I became the disappointment. If I do this, I said slowly, there's no going back. They'll never forgive me. Grandma reached across the table and squeezed my hand. The question is, will you forgive yourself if you don't? I picked up my phone and texted Ryan back. Coffee shop on 5th tomorrow at 2, before Mom and Dad show up at campus. Then I looked at the documents spread across the table, evidence of 3 generations of family secrets and enablers. Okay, Grandma. Show me everything. It's time to end this cycle. As we began sorting through the papers, I couldn't help but think that sometimes the greatest act of love is being willing to destroy everything to save someone from themselves. Coffee shop on 5th was crowded enough that no one would overhear us, but empty enough that I spotted Ryan immediately. He looked terrible, designer clothes wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. The golden child had lost his shine. Thanks for coming, he said, fidgeting with his coffee cup. I know, after Sunday. Just tell me what you want, Ryan. I kept my voice neutral, Grandma's photos burning a hole in my bag. He glanced around before leaning forward. I messed up, Harper. Really messed up. The stores, they're not just struggling, they're underwater. And there's this guy. A loan shark? I watched his face pale. Yeah, I know about that too. How did you? He stopped, shaking his head. Never mind. Look, I need your help. The Mom and Dad, they can't know about the loans. If you could just help out at the store for a few months, maybe take a break from… You mean drop out of college? The words tasted bitter. That's what this is really about, isn't it? Mom and Dad sent you to soften me up before they arrive. Ryan had the decency to look ashamed. They're just trying to help. Help who, Ryan? You? Dad? Because it's sure not me. I pulled out one of the casino photos and slid it across the table. Does Mom know you're following in Dad's footsteps? His hand shook as he picked up the photo. Where did you get this? Does it matter? What matters is that I'm not going to be your safety net. Not anymore. Harper, please. His voice cracked. I don't know what to do. These guys, they're not patient people. And Dad's connections aren't what they used to be. Text buzzed on my phone. Mom, we're early. Where are you? They're here, I said, standing up. Your timing was always perfect, wasn't it? Ryan grabbed my wrist. Wait, there's something else you need to know. About Grandma Evelyn. The coffee shop door chimed. Our parents walked in, Mom scanning the room with laser focus while Dad followed, looking more haggard than I'd ever seen him. Harper, Mom called out, too loud, too forced. Oh good, you're both here. We can all talk together. I pulled my wrist from Ryan's grip. Actually, we're done talking. Sit down, Dad said, his salesman smile nowhere in sight. This isn't a request. No, it's not, I agreed, reaching into my bag. It's a choice. Mine. I pulled out Grandma's folder and placed it on the table. Just like this is a choice. Mom's eyes narrowed. What is that? Everything. Dad's gambling history. Ryan's loans. The money laundering through the stores. Even Grandpa's real cause of death. I met each of their eyes in turn. I wonder what the bank would think about all this? Or maybe the police. You wouldn't, Ryan whispered, but there was fear in his voice now, not manipulation. Try me. I stepped back from the table. Here's what's going to happen. I'm staying in school. You're going to leave me alone. And Ryan? Get help. Real help, not just more cover-ups. Harper Quinn, Mom hissed, if you walk away now. You'll what? Cut me off? Disown me? Go ahead. But first, ask Dad about the Anderson account from 1995. Ask him what really happened to your inheritance, Mom. Dad's face went ash-gray. For the first time in my life, I saw him look at me with something other than dismissal. It was fear. As I walked out, my phone buzzed one last time. A text from Grandma. Did you do it? I typed back, yes. But Ryan tried to tell me something about you. What aren't you telling me? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, come over. There's one more thing you need to see. I looked back through the coffee shop window. My family sat frozen at the table, the folder between them like a bomb waiting to explode. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt hollow, like I'd just lit a match in a room full of gasoline. And somehow, I knew Grandma was holding the biggest match of all. Grandma's house felt different this time. The usual warmth was replaced by something heavier, like storm clouds gathering. She was waiting for me in her study, a leather-bound journal in her lap that I'd never seen before. Your grandfather kept records of everything, she said without preamble. Including what your father did to my art gallery. I sank into the armchair across from her. Your what? Before you were born, I owned the most successful contemporary art gallery in the city. She opened the journal, her fingers trembling slightly. Your grandfather helped me build it from nothing. But then your father needed money for his gambling debts. My phone buzzed, Ryan again. I silenced it. Dad destroyed your gallery? He convinced me to sign it over as collateral for a loan. Said he'd pay it back in 3 months. Her laugh was bitter. The gallery was worth 5 times what he owed. When he defaulted, I lost everything. Your mother knew, of course. She helped him forge my signature on the final paperwork. The room spun slightly. But you never said anything. All these years. Because I made a different choice. She pulled out an envelope from the journal. I decided to wait, to watch, to document everything. And now, she handed me the envelope. Now it's time for you to decide what to do with it all. Inside was a USB drive and a business card for Diana Chen, executive director of the Collins Design Group. I've been in touch with Diana, Grandma said. She's seen your portfolio. She's willing to offer you a paid internship, one that could lead to a permanent position. My heart leaped, then plummeted. But, but she needs an answer by tomorrow. And there's something else you should know. Grandma's expression hardened. Your father and Ryan? They're planning to use my house as collateral for another loan. They forged my signature again last week. My phone lit up with a text from Mom. We need to talk. Your father is very ill. Please come home. They're getting desperate, I said, showing Grandma the message. They're lying, she corrected. Your father isn't sick, he's running out of options. Just like he did with my gallery. She gestured to the USB drive. Everything you need is there. Bank records, forged documents, proof of their fraud. Enough to send them all to prison. My phone buzzed again. Ryan, Harper, please. Dad's in the hospital. What do you want me to do? I asked Grandma, my voice barely a whisper. What I couldn't do 30 years ago. But the choice has to be yours. She stood up, walking to her desk. The internship starts next week. In Chicago. Chicago. 2,000 miles away. Clean break. If I do this, I held up the USB drive. They'll lose everything. They already made that choice themselves. Grandma's voice was steel. The question is, are you ready to choose yourself? My phone lit up with a final message, a photo from Ryan. Dad in a hospital bed, looking pale and small. But something was off about the image. The hospital room looked familiar. I zoomed in on the background. This is from when he had his gallbladder out. 2 years ago. The manipulation was so obvious now that I looked for it. They're still trying to control me. Grandma nodded, unsurprised. What are you going to do about it? I looked at the business card, then the USB drive, then my phone with its desperate messages. Years of being the family disappointment, of having my dreams dismissed, of watching them enable each other's worst instincts while expecting me to clean up their messes. I need my laptop, I said finally. And then I need you to teach me everything you know about documenting fraud. Grandma smiled, but there was sadness in it. Just remember, Harper, revenge might feel like justice, but it comes with its own price. I know, I said, thinking of Ryan's haunted face in the coffee shop. But maybe some prices need to be paid. As we headed to my car to get my laptop, another text came through. This time from an unknown number. Miss Quinn, this is Diana Chin. I look forward to your decision. The future was calling. And this time I was ready to answer. I expected my parents to confront me eventually, but not like this. Not with campus security escorting them into Professor Martinez's studio during my final portfolio review. This is a private academic evaluation, Professor Martinez said, stepping between us. You'll need to wait outside. Our daughter is withdrawing from the program, Mom announced, her voice carrying across the studio. My classmates pretended not to stare at their screens. We're her parents, and we have concerns about her mental state. My hands shook as I minimized my presentation. Diana Chen's acceptance email for the Chicago internship was still open in another tab, unsigned. Harper is one of our most promising students, Professor Martinez argued. Her work isn't the issue, Dad cut in. Evelyn's been filling her head with lies. She's not well. The room tilted slightly. They'd gone to see Grandma. What did you do? Your grandmother had a fall, Mom said, her voice dripping with fake concern. She's very confused, mixing up old stories. The doctors think it might be early dementia. My blood ran cold. You're lying. See, Mom turned to security. This paranoid behavior is exactly what we're worried about. Harper, sweetheart, we just want to help. I grabbed my phone, but the screen was filled with missed calls from unknown numbers. No messages from Grandma. I need to see her, I said, reaching for my bag. Dad blocked my path. She's resting, he said. And we need to discuss your future. Ryan's waiting at home. Ryan? I laughed, the sound harsh even to my own ears. Is he going to explain how he forged Grandma's signature? Or maybe tell me more lies about your hospital stays. Professor Martinez stepped forward. Perhaps we should. Our daughter is having a breakdown, Mom interrupted, producing papers from her purse. We have temporary guardianship papers. She needs help. The world stopped. What? It's just temporary, Dad said softly, like he was soothing a child. Until you're thinking clearly again. Dr. Matthews agreed. Dr. Matthews? Our family doctor who covers up your gambling debts. The USB drive felt heavy in my pocket. Did you tell him about the fraud too? Security, Mom called out. Please. The guards moved forward. Professor Martinez protested, but her voice seemed far away. My classmates weren't pretending not to watch anymore. Don't touch me, I warned, backing toward my computer. One click and I could send everything, the proof, the forged documents, all of it to the police, to the press, to everyone. My finger hovered over the mouse. Harper. Ryan's voice. He stood in the doorway, looking wrecked. Please. Don't make this harder. Make what harder? Destroying my life to save yours. To save all of us, he whispered. Including Grandma. My hand froze. What does that mean? She's not confused, Harper. She's protecting you. His eyes were red. There's more to the gallery story. So much more. If you send those files, the security guards were almost reaching me. Professor Martinez was on the phone, probably calling the dean. My classmates' faces showed a mix of horror and pity. Time to go home, Dad said, reaching for my arm. We'll explain everything. I looked at my screen one last time. Diana Chen's email glowed back at me. The position is yours if you want it, but you'll need to leave everything behind. Everything. I clicked delete. The guards' hands were gentle as they led me out, past my shocked professor, past my whispering classmates, past the future I'd almost grasped. Mom collected my bag, my phone, my laptop. It's for the best, sweetheart. As we walked to the car, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the window, pale, shaking, defeated. Behind me, Ryan looked just as broken. I'm sorry, he mouthed. But I wasn't sure if he was apologizing for what they'd done or for what was still to come. Car door closed with a final click. As we drove away from campus, I realized Grandma had been right about one thing: revenge does come with a price. I just hadn't expected it to cost me everything. 3 days under house arrest taught me two things. My parents were terrible guards, and Ryan was a worse liar than I thought. I found the real hospital records in Dad's office at midnight. Not about Grandma's supposed fall, but about Ryan's gambling addiction treatment. The intervention hadn't been for me. It had been for him. I was picking the lock on Dad's filing cabinet when the study door opened. Ryan stood there, still in his therapy group t-shirt. You shouldn't be in here, he said, but made no move to stop me. Where's Grandma? Safe. He closed the door behind him. Unlike the rest of us. The filing cabinet clicked open. Inside, I found what I was looking for, the original gallery paperwork from 30 years ago. Not forged signatures, but real ones. Grandma's, Mom's, and one more, Ryan Quinn Sr. Our uncle, Ryan said quietly. Dad's brother. The one they told us died in a car accident. My hand shook as I read. He was murdered. By the same loan sharks Dad owes money to now. The same ones he swallowed hard. The same ones I got involved with. Footsteps creaked overhead, Mom doing her hourly check. That's why Grandma gave you the USB drive, Ryan continued. She knew you'd investigate, find the connection. But she didn't know they were watching her. Waiting for someone to start asking questions again. So the guardianship papers, the intervention, all of it was to protect you. His voice cracked. Like we couldn't protect Uncle Ryan. The overhead footsteps moved away. Where is she, Ryan? Really? He pulled out his phone, showed me a text. Package secure. Moving to second location. Dad's old friend from the force has her somewhere safe, he explained. But they're watching the house. If you leave, if you expose anything. Car engine rumbled outside. We both froze. That's not Mom or Dad, Ryan whispered. I grabbed the USB drive from my pocket. Call your therapy sponsor. Now. What? Why? Because he's a mandatory reporter. And in about 30 seconds, I'm going to send everything I have to every news outlet in the state. I pulled out my backup phone, the one they hadn't confiscated. Unless you tell me exactly what happened to Uncle Ryan. Car doors slammed outside. Heavy footsteps approached the front door. Harper, don't. Tell me. He was going to expose them. Ryan's voice broke. The gambling ring, the money laundering, all of it. Dad tried to stop him, to warn him, but he wouldn't listen. Just like you won't listen. The front door creaked open. I hit send. Ryan lunged for my phone, but it was too late. What have you done? Exactly what Uncle Ryan would have done. I showed him the screen, dozens of sent confirmations. But I learned from his mistake. I didn't just send it to the press. Police sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. The FBI's gambling task force, I said. The state attorney's office. Even Diana Chen, turns out she's on the board of a pretty powerful anti-corruption nonprofit. The study door burst open. 2 men in dark jackets reached for weapons. But Ryan moved faster, putting himself between me and them. She's not Uncle Ryan, he said clearly. And I'm not Dad. The sirens were deafening now. You know what Grandma told me before they took her to safety? I asked as red and blue lights flooded the room. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's saving what they tried to destroy. The FBI announced themselves at the door. Ryan looked at me, really looked at me, maybe for the first time. I'm sorry, he said. For everything. I know. I took his hand as the house erupted into organized chaos. Let's go get Grandma. Sometimes justice wears a badge. And sometimes it looks like a brother finally choosing the right side. 1 year later, I stood in front of Grandma's restored art gallery, watching the morning light play across the new sign. Turner and Quinn Design Gallery. My first major installation would open tonight, featuring pieces inspired by old family photographs, the real ones, not the carefully curated versions my parents had shown the world. You're early, Ryan said, walking up with 2 coffee cups. He looked different now, clearer somehow. 6 months of rehab and therapy had stripped away the golden child facade, leaving someone more real in its place. Couldn't sleep. I accepted the coffee. Have you heard from them? Mom's still not talking to anyone. Dad. He paused. The prison therapist says he's finally starting to deal with Uncle Ryan's death. Inside the gallery, Grandma was directing the installation crew, every bit as sharp and focused as she'd been 30 years ago. The FBI had found her within hours of that night, safe in a cabin owned by Dad's old partner, the only cop who tried to investigate Uncle Ryan's death all those years ago. Diana Chen called, I said, watching Ryan's reaction. The Chicago position is still open. He nodded slowly. You should take it. I'm not running away. It's not running if you're moving towards something. He gestured at the gallery. Grandma's got me here. I'm good with numbers when I'm not gambling them away. A weak joke, but progress. The installation crew finished, and Grandma joined us outside. She handed me an envelope. It's time. Inside was a letter dated the day before Uncle Ryan died. My hands shook as I read his words. Dear Evelyn, I'm sorry I couldn't save the gallery. But I promise someone will make it right someday. Someone will finish what I started. He knew, I whispered. He knew they were coming for him. He knew someone would be strong enough to break the cycle, Grandma corrected. He just didn't know it would be his namesake's children. Ryan touched the gallery window, his reflection overlapping with the old photographs inside. Do you think he'd be proud? Of what we did. Of what we're doing, I said. It's not over yet. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. The house sold today. Your father asked me to tell you he's sorry. For everything. Are you going to respond? Ryan asked. I put the phone away. Some apologies need time. Just like some dreams need 30 years to come true. I looked at Grandma. Right? She smiled, the morning sun catching the silver in her hair. The gallery was never just about art, Harper. It was about legacy. About choosing what kind of story you want to tell. The first visitors were arriving for the exhibition. Among them, I spotted Diana Chen, portfolio in hand. Go, Ryan said. Talk to her. I've got things here. You're sure? He laughed, a real laugh, not the hollow one from before. I'm not Dad, remember? I can handle watching the family business without destroying it. As I walked toward Diana, I heard Grandma telling Ryan about her first gallery opening 30 years ago. Their voices mixed with the growing crowd, creating something new from the echoes of the past. My installation centered on a single piece, a broken picture frame carefully reconstructed with gold-filled cracks, containing a photo of two brothers, my father and my uncle, standing in front of the original gallery. Beside it hung my artist's statement. Some things break so others can be rebuilt. Some stories end so new ones can begin. Diana Chen studied it for a long moment. When can you start? I looked back at Ryan and Grandma, at the gallery we'd rebuilt from the ashes of family secrets, at the legacy we'd reclaimed. I already have, I said. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying what hurt you. Sometimes it's about building something so beautiful from the wreckage that people forget there was ever anything else there at all. And sometimes, if you're lucky, you find family in the rebuilding.